Welcome to another episode of Distory. My name is Kirk from walruscarp.com, and tonight we are going to dive back into Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. But this time, we're heading over to the East Coast as we delve into the construction, some early photos, some promotional material, and then, of course, starting to enter into the queue and landscaping space of Big Thunder. And with me to explore this monstrous mine is with me the amazing, epic author and incredible Disney historian, Kate, the Disney Cicerone. Kate, how are we doing this evening?
Well, I'm doing really good. I'm excited to go back east, as we would say, if we're over here on the West Coast.
I mean,
we're going to go back east.
You literally just came from here, but
for
those that are listening, Kate literally just left from Disney World about 2 days ago.
I did. So I'm still on East Coast time. So this is perfect. This works out.
Dude, she's already getting tired, dude. It's early.
It's true. I am fading fast. But I'm excited because this one has a lot of really interesting secrets and hidden things in the queue. And we're not even getting through the whole queue tonight because we can't, because there's so much to it. We're just going to get through part, and then we'll do the rest next time. But
well, like a typical queue, you're going to have to wait for the rest of it.
That's
true. It's fair.
It's right on brand. So let's maybe start at the very beginning, right? It's a very good place to start. So Big Thunder Mountain Railroad in Walt Disney World. We've already talked about how Disneyland was meant to be the charming one, if that was the word for it. But Big Thunder Mountain in Walt Disney World is spectacular, is Tony Baxter's word for it. So everything is a little bit bigger, a little bit grander, a little bit more detailed. And so the interesting thing about this is if you remember how this process went about, it started in Thunder Mesa, and we had the runaway mine train, and then that project got scaled down to just the runaway mine train, and then that got shelved, and then it got brought back out, and then they decided to do it in Disneyland. Well, first they decided to do it in Disney World, but then that got shelved for Big Thunder, and then it ended up in Disneyland is where they actually built the first Big Thunder. So we've already talked about that, and now we're in Disney World. And what happened here was they're like, well, if we build in Disneyland, we got to build this in Disney World, not only because it was originally meant for it, but because they didn't want to have another pirate situation where people were saying, don't go to Walt Disney World because they don't have pirates. They don't want to be like, don't go to Walt Disney World because they don't have Big Thunder, right? They didn't want that repeat history that way. They'd learn their lesson. So they're like, we got to build this also in Walt Disney World if we built it in Disneyland. And that's how we ended up getting this one back in Disney World. So what do you got there, Kirk?
Yeah. Oh, I was just looking at concept art while you were jabbering on about God knows what. No. You're true. You're 1,000% correct. That we fully intended on having this first at Walt Disney World, but again, you don't want to miss out on a great e-ticket attraction. So that's why we get. And again, the same time period as Space Mountains happened at both parks, similar time frames just before this. So yeah, no, I was looking originally at just some concept art here, and this was from Ed French, which is just what the mine car was going to look like. So it's just kind of a sketched out little watercolor treatment of what potentially this could look like. And then in the background, you do see kind of the underpinnings of that big monument valley, vast, large mountain versus the many different peaks that we got in the Disneyland version.
Yes. Well, and I have that picture of that side by side for when Tony Baxter gave a really great presentation. I think it was for Give the Kids the World or something is where he did this presentation.
It was, yeah. It was a charity event.
So he did a really wonderful presentation about Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, and it's worth a listen if you are interested in Big Thunder, if you're interested in Disney history. It's wonderful. But
and if you're listening to this podcast and you don't like that stuff, I'm so sorry.
You might need to find another podcast.
Oh, yeah. Try Mom Street USA out. It might be more your speed.
It's true. I'm not allowed to talk about Distory there. So, no, I'm just kidding. That's not true. So you can see here, this is the side-by-side of the inspiration from that talk with Tony Baxter from Arizona's Monument Valley. So this is the actual photograph they used as a model for that peak for Big Thunder. And it actually doesn't look like exactly like it. I would almost say that the one that is for Monument Valley is way more angular at the bottom. It's a very sharp corners versus the one we have in Disney World, which is a little bit more like, it embraces a little bit of the spirit of the hoodoos from Bryce Canyon. They made this version a little bit brighter, a little grander, a more realistic than the original version that Tony had created for the first version of Walt Disney World. So he had created kind of this like different version that Kirk is showing you there is kind of the original model for it. But they made it even bigger. They expanded it. So it became spectacular because of the size of Walt Disney World is bigger. So it expanded to 2.5 acres, which is 25% larger than Disneyland's version, because they have the ability to do that because they have so much space there. It's 197 feet tall, and it became the tallest mountain in Florida at the time, not just Disney World, just the tallest mountain in Florida, which I think then somebody said it was taller than Everest, but I feel like Everest is the tallest now. Do you remember how tall Everest is? Isn't it 99.5 or whatever?
Yeah, I think it's 199.5 because it has a little tiny Yeti at the top.
Right. So I think that
before that, Tower of Terror was taller. And for those that care about, well, why on earth do they care about this 200 feet? Well, if they go to 200 feet, they have to put like basically light indicators for aircraft. So if they ever break that, they would have to have lighting up there, which they think would ruin the theming. So that's why they kind of stick to this 200 feet.
Right.
They should go underground. Get like another 200 feet underground, figure that out.
They did dig down for the Disneyland version, right, to make sure it wasn't taller than the Matterhorn. So
I mean, like hundreds of feet. Dude.
Like mine.
Like a real mine.
Excavating in the mine. Yeah. Well, that's always an option, I suppose. So as we've talked about before, this version is a reversed version from the Disneyland ones. The tracks are pretty much a mirror image of each other. They don't have the exact same props and stuff, though. So when we do the actual walkthrough of the ride, you'll see all the differences between the two, which we won't get into today, but that is coming. There also is an indoor queue for this one versus an outdoor queue, which makes so much sense for the Florida weather. Although, Kirk, I have to say that queue smells really bad in Florida.
What, our queue?
Yeah. Like, why does
what
it smell
can I
so
say
bad?
except it's BO and coupled with bad hygiene, lots of sweat and gross, nasty people. No, I mean, you know what it is? I think it's like there's so much wood and there's so much rain that I think it's a coupling of like mildew and all that kind of stuff too. Just because it's like, it's got to be hard to weather seal all those wooden surfaces since the 80s. It's got some dank to it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a mine, lady. What do you think this is going to be? You think this is going to... Like,
you need a...
Like, seriously, what do you think this is?
Well, you got like Pirates of the Caribbean, even though it's musty from 1967, it's still got like the pirate water smell because it's got the...
Well, yeah. Well, yours, that's all it has. You don't get any other sense,
That's true. But anyway, I mean, it surprised me how strong it was this last time I went. I was just like, wasn't prepared. And I was like, wow. Okay. So anyway, moving on.
Yeah, I don't really want to do this conversation about why we stink. Like, literally stink.
Kirk is quitting the podcast. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know if I like this whole thing. I don't know what we're doing here. What are we doing?
It was just surprising me. Okay, so we did talk about how Disneyland is, sunk down to make sure that it's not taller than the Matterhorn. Well, so when you go into the queue, you actually kind of like walk down a ramp in Disneyland, but it's the opposite here in Disney World.
Oh,
you actually are climbing up until
pump the brakes, lady. Pump the brakes.
What?
You jumped over construction so fast.
No. I'm not going to the queue. I was just mentioning the differences between it and Disneyland. That's all. Because I was talking about the mirrored image.
All right.
You are Icy.
I thought you were going. I thought you were going to the queue. I'm like, bro, we haven't even started, dude. Here's your little double.
No, I was just kind of like mentioning that it's different because we're just making the transition, sir, from.
I know. Did you know that Disneyland smells so much better than Walt Disney World?
It does. Well, it's only because it's open air, though. If it was closed,
yeah,
probably would be.
We really capture the funk.
Well, okay. What do you want to say about construction? I do have some stats, but do you want to chat?
No, nothing. Nothing now. I want to see where this transition takes us. I'm on this train until we're ready to move on. I'm not going anywhere.
Well, some of the stats from this Big Thunder Mountain in Walt Disney World. It has 1,300,000 pounds of steel beams, rods, and mesh. 9,350,000 pounds of cement and sand. 560,000 pints of water that they use in various parts of the attraction. I love that they did this in cups. 64,000 cups of desert paint in assorted colors. So it's like cups, not gallons, not pints. We're going to do cups because it's more impressive, apparently. There is 2,780 feet of railroad tracks, and it is a 3.5-ish minute ride length. And then I think we should talk about construction. So what do you got, Kirk?
Nothing. No. I'm kidding. I have a lot. All right. So first of all, let's just talk about the area in which Big Thunder is located, right? So for both of Walt Disney World and Disneyland, it's basically unused space. It's just like extras, right? Like this isn't the castle. This isn't a center focal point. These are add-ons to already existing successful park. So it's hard for me to grasp that until you see it. So I'll explain it to those that are just listening. But like these pictures blew my mind because it's just so weird to see undeveloped Magic Kingdom, undeveloped Frontierland, and you got to remember things were open right during this construction time. So there were a lot of like nowadays they put walls in front of everything. A lot of that didn't happen in this, so it's just kind of cool. All right,
it's like you could just watch it happening.
Yeah, right, exactly. If you were a guest, you could just pop on over to Tom Sawyer Island and take this picture of just a flat, like basically graded area. So there's just sand and mounds of dirt. This is a horribly blurry version, but this one actually looks like it's from the train, and then we have more just piles of dirt. It's just so strange to me to see like scrub pines. Oh, that's a good one too. I love that one.
What, this one?
Yeah, with like the rafting platform.
Yeah, because
I have that one somewhere,
where that is. If you're familiar with the river, like you can remember where that is.
Right. If you've ever been on the Liberty Bell, that's like towards the backside of it. And there's lots of construction photos too that include things that don't exist anymore too, which I think is really fun.
Yeah.
So. And it's again, this monumental, 6,500 tons of steel. I mean, it's just crazy how to have something come from nothing and then just build this monumental space. All right.
I found some really cool pictures of Frontierland as well, but
here we go. So I found some more. This is again from that same angle from Tom Sawyer Island, and it's so weird to just see nothingness. And because like this whole entire area, there's no cement, there's no landscaping, there's nothing.
Check this out.
Trailers
check this
in the
out.
back,
Look,
and some cranes and bulldozers.
Do you see this? That's the rivers of America, and the islands in the middle, and then on the far side is the Walt Disney World Railroad.
It's crazy.
It's crazy, right?
I mean, they had to have thought that they wanted to have pad sites and expansion there to have laid the railroad.
That's where Big Thunder Mesa was supposed to go. Or sorry, Thunder Mesa, not Big Thunder. Thunder Mesa was supposed to go in that spot. And then they didn't build it because it was phase 2, right? So like this one, look, you can see the Haunted Mansion.
Like, could you imagine oh my gosh, that's an incredible, that's awesome. Yeah, it's so far off in the distance and there's literally nothing. It's so weird. Because there was no theming back there either when you were on the train, it's just.
Yeah, you can see the castle on the other side is right here.
It's so crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And this is the burning cabin. So that little tiny object you see in the middle, that's the burning cabin on the island.
Oh. Okay.
So we're standing like over where Big Thunder would be.
Gotcha.
In the grass.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
Anyway.
Sorry. No. This one's cool because it has like an old school Tom Sawyer raft back when they had the
that is
the sail on the front. And then over here is the trough for the keel boats.
Here's the keel boat.
Oh, yeah. I have that one. That one's cool. Now, you can see this section is part of the station. You can see some track being laid down, but again, still no framing with the steel. Remember, to make a mountain, you make it out of metal first. So you put that steel down with either beams or, what do you call it, like rods? The steel rods. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And then put lathe over top of it, then shoot it with gunite, then put sand and then cement over top of it.
Yeah, and gunite's basically like that material they use for swimming pools. So if you're not familiar with what that is, that's what it is.
Or you could also say your firearm is pretty okay. Gunite. Gunite. Ain't great. Rebar. That's what I was looking for. Thank you for rebar. Thank you, Katie, for rebar. I was like, I don't know what that word is.
I knew. I was trying to find it. I was like, it's in there somewhere, but I don't know. So I can't help you.
It's okay. It's cool, too, to see the different layers. So as we build the mountain up, it all starts out the same color, which is that cement gray. And then they start painting,
With their 64,000 cups of paint.
Yeah, even seeing like the unstained wood for this is the backside entering into the final lift hill section of the attraction. I just think that's kind of cool. And for those that don't understand, it's kind of neat to think about. I mean, this happens at Space Mountain too. Like anytime that track goes by or you go underneath things multiple times, like Space Mountain is really unique. And the reason why it has that really long walkway is because you're going on top of the other walkway and the roller coaster is above you, so you're always like underneath it. But in this case, I just think it's cool to see that the one lift hill kind of creates like an X, right? So it goes up the one way, and then on your final descent, it goes through the same mountain, but just like not bisects it, but it almost does, and it creates like an X pattern because you're going the opposite way. It's kind of neat.
Yeah. Do you have more construction photos?
Here we go. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Okay. Here's the one with the Liberty Bell and the Mike Fink. So you can see...
Like, it wasn't the Liberty Bell then. Zoom in on it.
Richard Irvine back then.
Richard F. Irvine, yeah. And they renamed it when the other steamboat that was the Admiral Joe Fowler, they accidentally dropped it in dry dock and its hull cracked. So they took it out of service. So there used to be two steamboats. But the engine ended up going to Tokyo. So it's still kind of alive somewhere else. But then they renamed the boat to the Liberty Bell because
it's alive.
And they moved those names over to the ferries. So if those names sound familiar, they put them on the ferries instead.
Yeah.
So sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. And then look, there's a little Fink keel boat right behind it.
Aw. Not overturned yet.
Nope. Alive and well. All right. That's all I got from construction photos.
Okay. The only other thing I have is just a few notes about the trains. There's, like Disneyland, there are 6 Gold Rush trains with a max speed of 30 miles per hour, which I think is 2 miles per hour faster than Disneyland. I think it was 28, wasn't it? But there's the You Be Bold, You Are Daring, You Are Courageous, I Am Brave, I Am Fearless, and I Be Hardy. And I do want to mention something.
By the way, these are all the things that Kate says to herself in the mirror when she wakes up.
It's my affirmations.
Yes, it's your morning affirmation routine.
You be bold. You are courageous. I am brave. I am fearless. We are. I do want to be all those things. Something we didn't mention in our Disneyland episode, but I feel like we should just give a quick mention to it, was something that actually happened in 2003, which affected the looks of the train. So if you see the picture that Kirk is showing right there, you will see the engine of the train has 2 giant red wheels on the front, but those if you look at current pictures of it, it's missing the second wheel. So it only has the front red wheel, but not the like middle one. And that is because there was an accident that happened in 2003 where an axle came loose and caused the engine to derail. And then it was in the tunnel at the time, and the engine actually like flipped up and hit the top of the tunnel and then went backwards and hit the first car. Obviously, it did not turn out well for the person who was sitting there. And I don't want to go into it because there might be family members of these people out there. So I don't usually like to talk about these kinds of accidents. But it did affect the design of the vehicle. So they decided to just remove that wheel. It hadn't been tightened properly. That's all that happened. But in order to prevent that from ever happening again, they removed that wheel because it was something about it would just like get shaken loose really easily. So if you look at the current trains, they don't have that second red wheel on them anymore. And that is because of what happened in 2003. So just a quick mention of that.
You and I had talked about this earlier. Also just how this was manufactured. So Aero Development had done the Disneyland version. And it goes through like a period of like unique ownership / bankruptcy / people own and license their ride vehicles now. So originally it was Aero Development, then it turned into Aerodynamics during a restructure / bankruptcy, and then now a lot of the Disney roller coasters that use similar track styles and layouts are Vekoma, which uses licenses from the now defunct Aerodynamics that was purchased by SS. Real brief history.
I mean, I think it's really interesting to note that Disney has never manufactured their own tracks for any of these coasters. They've always used an outside source.
Don't you think those things are... I wonder if there's like liability things. Because I've always thought about that, you know, like, is it better off decorations and whatnot can be done internally, but when it comes to like a physical ride mechanics, like who was liable for those train cars? Was Disney liable? Probably both were,
sure.
Right?
Yeah. I think because it was a maintenance thing, it probably was Disney. And the design of the trains, I think, was patented to Disney, at least the braking system, which was partially what failed. So I think Disney was liable for that. But that is a good question. So, and I think it also is, you know, they don't want to get involved with something that they could outsource just easily to something that they know what they're doing and they have all the material to do it. So it's just cheaper for them that way. Kirk, before we start walking through the queue, I feel like we should talk a little bit of backstory and Barnabas T. Bullion just to give like context. How do you feel about that?
Go for it. So Barnabas T. Bullion came from the 2012 refurbishments that were happening, mainly starting in Walt Disney World. Do you want to give a little backstory about the one, the only?
Yes. So Barnabas T. Bullion is the founder and president of the Big Thunder Mining Company. He's the longtime mining magnate, comes from a powerful East Coast family, and considers gold to be his very birthright by virtue of his oddly appropriate name. In fact, he considers the ultimate gold strike to be his destiny, and that is why he's having so much trouble with Big Thunder Mountain. So according to superstitious locals, Big Thunder Mountain is very protective of the gold that it holds within, which we've talked about in previous episodes about how there's real mountains out there that do this, that have these superstitions attached to them. And the unfortunate soul who attempts to mine its riches is destined to fail. And so far, that prophecy is coming to pass. The mine has been plagued by mysterious forces and natural disasters ever since. And yet, the Big Thunder Mining Company is still in operation. In fact, Bullion is discovering new veins of gold and digging new shafts every day, offering a closer look at the Big Thunder mining operation than ever before. But a word to the wise for anyone attempting to visit the mountain, watch out for runaway trains. So that's kind of like that story. But then I have like the actual backstory of Big Thunder, if you don't mind me getting into that, Kirk.
No problem. Hang on.
Okay. All right. So by the 1880s, the Big Thunder Mining Company was owned by Barnabas T. Bullion. He was a member of the Society of Explorers and Adventurers, which we'll see come up in the queue here. And he saw it as his destiny to acquire all the gold from the mountain. His primary mining colonies, however, were in the towns of Rainbow Ridge and Tumbleweed, which are located at different areas of the Big Thunder Mountain range. So remember, Rainbow Ridge is over in Disneyland, and Tumbleweed is the one that's in Disney World. So the tumbleweed backstory is Big Thunder's wrath caused the town to suffer from extreme droughts, which bled out the town's population. Eventually, this got so bad that a snake oil salesman and conman named Cumulus Isobar came to the town in order to exploit it by offering the service of his rainmaking skills. And we'll talk more about his history and all of that when we get to that scene. So we won't get into all the history of that, but there is quite a bit of history there. Cumulus decided to leave town after declaring that the rain would come, but to Cumulus's surprise, rain did come in the form of a flash flood. The flood ravaged Tumbleweed and made Isobar stuck in the ghost town. Due to these conditions, the miners who worked for Big Thunder were required to stay in the Big Thunder boarding house, where meals were provided daily and bathing weekly. So to make matters worse for the miners, the company's foreman, Mr. G. Wilkers, has arranged the pay rates. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in the queue. I won't give it all away here, but he shows up again. And then due to the increasing disasters at mining sites, Bullion came into contact with his old associates from the SEA, namely Jason Chandler, who we talked about from Disneyland, who ran the society. Chandler, who had already sold Barnabas a drilling machine, furthermore connected Barnabas with Madame Zarkov at the Museum of the Weird, who told him to abandon the operation altogether, something which Bullion refused to do. So, long story short, Barnabas T. Bullion is just super greedy and wants a lot of gold.
And we haven't talked about who he looks like.
Yeah, that's right. Do you want to mention that?
The one and only Tony Baxter, which is funny because in that Give Kids the World presentation, he goes, "They made me out to be a villain." And apparently the portrait that they use is the second portrait. But he gets really villainous to what Kate is bringing up when Marvel decides to do a comic book. It's like a 5-part treatment about Barnabas, who basically is out for only pure profits at himself.
Well, it's funny because Tony Baxter told the story about how he was looking at the comic book and like shaking his head and being like, "This isn't me. I don't look like this. This isn't this. They didn't get this. This isn't me." And his friend took a picture of him looking at the comic book, and he looks exactly like the character staring down.
He's like, "Dude, that's you. I don't know how to tell you this, but you are a villain."
So really kind of interesting backstory there. And I think it's interesting that this wasn't like his idea to put his portrait up.
No, they thought he would love it. They were like, "Oh man, you're gonna love the fact that you're in the queue now, and you have this great backstory because you're the one who created it." And he's like, "Yeah, not so much.
Well,
not a big fan of that."
I wonder if he's sensitive to the fact that it's a story about him basically exploiting the mountain. That's taking over the mountain.
Thunder Mesa, exploiting Thunder Mesa.
You know what? I don't think that was ever. I don't get the vibes from him that was ever his intention to do that to Mark Davis, but I wonder if he's sensitive to the fact that did happen, and it maybe all went down, and he fears all the guilt.
Dirty, who gets in my way? I don't know. Maybe that's what he sounds like.
I don't think so.
What do you think? How else would he sound? He's like a mining,
I don't know. I don't have voices for him.
Wait, hang on. What's that one say? So the lower we go, the richer the vein. I mean, what do you? How dare you, Kate? I'd immediately push you on user duty. Huh? Yeah, what? What are you saying to me?
I'm saying there's something about it that you sound like one of those hecklers at a carnival. It's like, step right up and like.
That's what he is, dude. He's a heckler in a carnival.
I do want to mention just a quick note that something we just brought up in this backstory is there is a mention of Madame Zarkov from the Museum of the Weird. And so this is just a nod to Raleigh Crump's old concept for the Haunted Mansion, which we've discussed before. And you can see here it's where we have this kind of surreal hand holding a crystal ball, which comes from La Belle and la Bête from 1946, a French surrealist film. That's where he gets the idea for that. But then it also is the Romani wagon from Raleigh Crump as well. that we had all hoped to see when Disneyland announced they were going to do their remodel. And we were all sad to not see it in the concept art. So,
Crump Man gets the shaft.
I'm hoping the gift shop has elements of Museum of the Weird in it. That's what I'm holding out hope for. I'm hopeful.
At best, you get a tiny Candleman on a shelf.
I would, if they had the mushroom people, I'd be pretty happy. That could make my year. Because the mushroom
Well,
people are
that's a
amazing.
statement that no one will ever hear again in the English language.
They have little arms.
Just adding to the weirdness.
It's a Museum of the Weird. It's supposed to be weird. So
That's
true. It's on brand. That's all I have for kind of backstory. Do we want to talk opening day?
Yeah, I mean, I have some promotional material. So this was posted up inside of the Magic Kingdom with the concept art, and then it had an announcement that said the wildest ride in the wilderness, inaugural run, winter 1980. Climb aboard and roar down the track on a whirlwind trip through the chasms and mines of Big Thunder Mountain. So I think that's pretty cool. Make your plans to board now. Opening winter 1980. And so this was like just outside the construction area, and it had the concept art.
Yeah, and I had a poster too that was pretty neat, but I have to go back to it in a minute because I found this. This is actually in Behind the Attraction, if you've ever seen the episode on Disney Plus that has the Behind the Attraction for Big Thunder, which is a really great, I always say that series is a really great place to start if you love Disney history. It's a starting point. It goes by really, really fast, so they're not going to be highly detailed and tell you all the things, but there's some really good nuggets of information there. Oh, but that's the poster I was going to show. So great, you have it, because that's like the most 80s poster ever.
Catch it.
And ride. Catch it and ride. Is it roughshod? The great Western days of Gold Rush adventure. Yeah.
Catch the runaway mine train on Big Thunder Mountain. Catch it if you dare. No one's at the controls. It could storm you away to just about anywhere. I don't know. I'm doing pirate. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to do pirate. Down and around swirling buttes, over hazardous tracks, through bat-infested caves, raging waterfalls, gushing geysers. It's important. Remember that later.
Yeah.
No obstacle is powerful enough to barricade its fury. Catch it if you dare. Why are you trying to catch a train?
Could you catch a train?
Yeah, I know.
That's what you do. You get on it. You hop on it before it leaves.
Just catch it.
Catch it is kind of weird.
Also, this does prove that your Magic Band is wrong being the number 4, considering all of them have the number 1.
I think it's number 3.
Okay, well, even worse.
It's like 3 or 5. It's all weird. Like, the Magic Band is messed up, but the logo front is cool.
Welcome to merchandising mix-ups.
I'm like, why is this? I don't know. You don't ask why when it comes to merch. You just accept that it is what it is, and you just roll with it.
Yeah, you either get it or you don't.
Yeah. So I have from the Behind the Attraction, just a little clip of the opening day ceremonies with all the people waiting in line for Big Thunder, and then they show it's so weird to not see Splash Mountain or anything there. You know, it's just a big giant grassy hill, which is so different. But then you can see all the people riding on opening day, and there's this giant windmill back there. Is that still there, Kirk? Have you seen the giant windmill?
Ooh. It might be.
Okay. We have to look for that as we go through the ride later. But anyway, so that's opening day that happened. This was actually the grand opening in November 15th, but they did open early, kind of like a soft opening on September 23rd, 1980. So they weren't, there was kind of 2 opening dates for Big Thunder in case you're ever wondering why.
Yeah, I found this opening dedication and a bunch of like leaflets and everything. And again, with that, catch it and stake your claim on the world.
So it's different than Thunder Strikes. You know, like they changed it from Disneyland with Thunder Strikes.
You can RSVP by October 31st to say that you are, yes, I will attend Big Thunder Mountain.
It's like a wedding
Yeah. One thing that was interesting too is this like vacation guide shows pricing, and for the 2-day unlimited passport, it was $20 for adults, $18 for 12 to 17, and $10 for kids. Could you imagine paying $20 for Disney today? I mean, this was 1980.
That would be nice.
So.
Well, in the 1980s, that was when they got to the point where they were like giving away Disneyland tickets with like Big Macs because they had a hard time getting people to go. If you can believe that.
Hang on, ready? Let's do some quick math here. $20, 1980 would be $74.86. So it would be, that's for 2 days. So $75 for 2 days. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's a great deal.
Yeah.
I would love to go back to those prices.
Mm-hmm.
Sold.
Yep.
The other thing they had at the opening was they had this like commemorative bronze coin that they had made. They had them minted. So it said Walt Disney World, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, 1980 grand opening. And then it says 1980 Walt Disney Productions, which has been on their merch forever. And then this is what the front looked like. So it just said, the train coming at you. Catch it.
Catch it.
Catch it.
Catch it.
It always sounds like somebody's like throwing the train at you. It's like,
yeah, it's a little much.
It feels very 1980s though in its advertising, strategy. But do you have anything else for opening day before we move on?
Yeah, opening day they had a TNT plunger ceremony where they ignited the back half of the mountain with some fireworks and smoke, which I thought was pretty cool.
I thought you were going to say they lit it on fire. I was like, whoa.
They lit it up. This thing was it looked really cool. It was just kind of simple. But again, I thought it was cool that they used the plunger fuse like we know from last episode.
Well, anything else for opening day? Oh, I have a picture. Sorry. I have a picture from opening day with Mickey and Goofy doing his thing.
I have just some really simple pictures from that time period as well. Now, this was interesting because you'll notice on the top, there's 2 smokestacks that were smoking. Those don't exist anymore.
Oh, that is interesting.
And there also was, if you look to the right, now this has been changed and altered, but there was that bucket and pulley, which are on the ground now, were actually extended outside of those top doors.
I thought it was in the air. Oh, I see. You're right. It is on the ground.
It's on the ground, lady.
My brain put it in the sky.
I threw it on the ground. Yeah, I know. The smokestack thing was interesting because I was like, oh, wait, those don't exist. Also, the other thing that we're going to talk about it, but if you look, there's very little landscaping. All right.
Okay. So let's start outside before you step in the queue. There just are a couple of things around there. Now, we mentioned in a previous episode that Pat Burke was the one that did all of the set design for Big Thunder, and here's a nice picture of him in Walt Disney World next to some mining equipment, hanging out. And he did grow up in the Mojave Desert near a whole bunch of abandoned mines and ghost towns and whatnot, so he had a lot of familiarity with those kinds of things.
Yeah, that all that equipment isn't yours, it's mine.
Okay. So something really interesting that is on the outside before you step into the queue is this area that, Kirk, I stared at this for too long when I was there, like a creeper. So there's this area that has a whole bunch of crates, and then it has a water hand pump with a bucket, and it has a door, not like a trap door, but like a door that would open up almost like a cellar.
Yeah.
And I was like, is this access to a mine? Is it access to a well? It's got a platform.
Yeah, originally I thought that it was a flat platform that they used over top of a water source that would get disrupted from the geyser erupting, which is the main storyline here of why we go out of sync and all wild at the end. But I don't think that's the case because of the way that it's constructed, especially on the right with the bars underneath it. It seems like it was meant to be on this angle, but it makes no sense to me. I wish I had an answer.
Yeah, it seems very intentional, but I do start to see things do look a little bit disheveled. Like, I don't think that bucket should be on top of that door, right?
Maybe.
There's like a little tiny bucket on top of the door. And so I have a theory. This is my theory for the queue before we walk in, so we can kind of have this potential mindset, is that
mindset. I know it's with a D, but
I was like, what did I say? So we can have this I can't say it now.
Go ahead and say it.
So we can have this perspective.
Prospective?
Oh gosh. Anyway, so as you go through the queue, as you look around the mountain, it's so much more disorganized than Disneyland when you look at it. And this is not like a slam to Disney World. I think it's part of the storytelling, is that all of these geysers have erupted and basically thrown everything everywhere. And so we've got flash floods too that would also move stuff around and wash debris down. And so flash floods and geysers erupting, like all of that has caused chaos in this mine. So we start seeing equipment that is not where it should be, or upside down, or on its side. We see, you remember how we talked about the mine tailings that they had here? They had 100 tons of mine tailings they imported from the Mojave Desert. Now, I was looking for them like they were in Disneyland, they were like neatly stacked in the queue because they used them as part of like the retaining walls and whatnot. But in Disney World, they are scattered virtually everywhere. Because I was like, where are the mine tailings? Because remember how I told you, Kirk, when we were standing in this queue and I was like, are those the rocks? And you're like, no, those are like man-made, like crazy. Like, that's not it.
Yeah, but then it was obvious once you start looking in the queue and other parts like outside, there's tons of them just like embedded.
Right. Well, they look like they're scattered everywhere. Right. Exactly. So I think that's where they use the mine tailings, which we talked about this in the previous episode. Mine tailings are what's left over when you're done getting the gold out of the rocks, essentially. It's the leftovers from the gold mining process. So these are actual mine tailings from the Mojave Desert. But yeah, I think they're just kind of scattered everywhere as part of the flash flood, as part of the eruptions. And so it's created this chaos. So as we go into the queue, I feel like if we kind of like look at it from that storytelling perspective, all this stuff starts to make sense. Because at first I was just like, were people just really sloppy when they abandoned this place? Because stuff was everywhere.
Well, you know what cracks me up is in that one video again, it's like everything is carefully maintained and placed. And you just see workers just throwing things randomly into the cement. And it's like, oh, okay.
We have this whatever. I feel like because there's a pump attached to it, it might be covering a well. That's my best guess about what that is. But I don't know for sure.
It's a well, dude.
It's a well. Let's just say it. Where is the well?
Own it.
And then next to it is really an interesting thing that I spent way too long trying to figure this out too, is this box. Did you figure out what this box is, by perchance?
I did not figure out that box.
At first I thought maybe...
I didn't even think... The only thing I did with that box is take a picture of that box. That's all I did. I was like, oh, that box might be something.
Right.
You know, because it's got like metal on the side, you know, and it's got like almost like a bellows, you know.
The only thing I can think of, yes, that's what I thought, is maybe it's like a shaker box or something where it would then, you know, shake the gold down through the layers, because gold is heavier than a lot of the other sediment, and try to make it so that this would separate the gold from the rest of the material. So I don't know for sure if that's what this is, but that's my best guess. That's all I got.
I like it.
I looked at everything.
Some people are gold diggers and some people are gold shakers. This box may be a gold shaker.
Right. And just in the entrance, we do see that Big Thunder Mountain logo again, which would be If you flipped over the M for mountain and you turn it into a W, it becomes Tony Wayne Baxter. So those are his initials. And then, interestingly enough, at the lightning lane, I think it's really interesting that they have the clock. They put dynamite behind it. Mm-hmm. So it's timed. It's like it's a timed, which makes sense for lightning lanes. So
yeah, you gotta go quick, otherwise that thing explodes.
Do you want to talk about the minecart at all?
I do. Oh boy, do I. You hit a hot button item tonight.
All right. Yay. Oh, good.
So you know me. It's the simple things in life. All right. So as Kate said, we do have a wonderful overturned minecart, which does have a little door on there. And you're wondering, well, why would there be a door? Well, that's so that they could actually open them up and then dump them. So, and you would dump them. So this was a ore cart. So all of those like pieces of debris when you're, carving out a mine, you need to move that rock out. It would get dumped into these ore carts. And boy, did I look up ore carts. And I was trying to find...
Someone over here says it's Wagons 2.0.
All right.
No, go for it. I want to hear about that because the lamp history was fascinating last time. So
no. I just think it was. I think it's cool that I think I found ones that are similar of the same time period. So these are all 1800 ore carts. Some were made out of wood, but the majority of them had that same angle. Now this was actual real mining equipment, and again, these have that style of rails because all the mine carts would be on like a railway system. So, and integral to moving big, heavy ore out of the mines. But I couldn't find the specific one. I tried my darnest, and I could not find. Because
that's what you stared at this week.
No, not really. I just was like on I don't know, maybe I could find it. I couldn't find it. I got some other good stuff though.
That's how I felt about a lot of the stuff. I was like, I tried to find it, but I didn't find it.
Yeah.
It's funnily enough, I wasn't talking about that minecart, but I'm glad you brought that up. I was talking about this one.
Which minecart were you talking about?
The one on the other side when you first enter.
Oh, you're way too far. You're way too far.
This is in the entrance. This one's before that one.
Oh, it's to the left.
This was in the entrance, yeah. This is when you go in. This is like right at the entrance, and it's right under the sluice. And it has, it's just on a little tiny set of tracks, but it's more of a square. So I don't know if it's an ore cart. You might have to.
Well, it's funny that you bring up that specific ore cart because, it's an ore cart. And you notice this one is a unique style because it's top down. So, you can dump things in from the top versus like shoveling it in. It can be like loaded. So you notice above it, it has like a giant hole.
Yeah.
In the wooden structure. That's to like dump more.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. So it's not a sluice up there. It's probably a loading platform.
Yeah, there you go.
Interesting.
See?
My brain just made it part of the sluice because of all the woodwork. But yeah, you're right. It has a door on it. It's like a trap door.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell you, dude.
You're like, but you wouldn't listen.
You were like, yo, that's a sluice. And I was like, yo, watch your tone. All right.
All right. So next to the other upside down cart. So that's what I was thinking, like an upside down cart that would tie right back into that storyline of things being washed away or tossed about. And then right next to it is just, I'm not going to get into high details about these ones, but there's just a whole bunch of kind of rusty old mining equipment as well.
It's funny you mentioned rusty old mining equipment because, no, I'm just kidding. Could you imagine? I get that granular on every single thing.
Oh my gosh. That would be crazy.
Yeah.
I would love it, but we don't have to do that. I did do you have things about the plants that are in the queue?
I do. I do. So hang on, let me pull up my my plants. All right, so these are agave plants, which agave has a lot of different purposes. Most people know agave from tequila. And there's so many different varietals of agave. I spent a good solid 10 minutes trying to differentiate. Blue agave is actually really defined and not as like wild looking as the one in the front left here that we have, which kind of has these long spear tip like, and they're kind of like wavy. The one in the back looks more like a blue agave plant where it's more uniform and long and thin with the leaves. But agave, yes, you can ferment it and make beverages, but you could also use the plant material for food, for fiber, so for sewing materials. You can also use it for construction because of the base and what it's made out of, which is almost like a woody texture. This sap is antimicrobial, so a lot of indigenous folks would use it for that as well, and it was found to be anti-inflammatory. So if you could think of the 1800s, agave would have a lot more uses than just drinking, but they probably just drank it.
You say tequila is made from that?
Yeah, tequila is made out of fermented agave plants.
I don't know much about tequila, so that's interesting.
Yeah, well, you don't really need to know much. You've learned basically what you need to know.
Do you have information on the cactus?
Oh, do I ever have information on the cactus? My gosh, Kate, did I ever think that you would ever ask me? So, it's a ridiculous episode. The cactus are prickly pear cactus, or also known as nopales cactus. And you'll notice that these ones are actually budding, which have kind of average length somewhere between 2 and 5 centimeters long. You can actually eat these if you pluck them off, and they would be slightly tangy and kind of taste a little bit like asparagus or green beans.
But don't eat the ones in the queue. Just saying.
Yeah. No.
We're not advocating for that.
You wouldn't want to eat the buds anyway. Right. But the paddles themselves, the big paddle parts, so like the green, huge things that look like paddles, are suited for steaming, baking, and boiling, which you can then scrape them and use them. They either get pickled or you can make cactus tacos or a lot of different like Mexican dishes. They're delicious. They're awesome. But then you also have, because these are the flowers, so we're a little bit early. So I have a picture of the prickly pear fruit itself, which you can eat the fruit again. So in probably a couple of weeks when I go back, I'll try to take the same exact picture so you can see what the buds look like when they turn into prickly pear fruit.
And we'll still be in the queue by then, so it'll work out.
Yes, we will be.
Oh, that's great. We do have a few other kind of mining equipment things that are laying around, including this rusty bucket, which I don't have information about besides.
Funny about rusty buckets. No, those are used for, and actually I think it's going to be utilized in the next large piece of equipment that we're going to be talking about, the stamp mill. But mainly it's used for either depositing large ore or crushed ore after it gets processed. So.
Yeah, I kind of figured it was to carry rocks, but
yeah. Did you look at the can you do me a favor? Mm-hmm. Can you look inside the bucket? Do you see anything?
I can't.
Or does that look empty to you? Or
I think it's empty. I think it's empty.
Yeah, see, I'm more of a yeah, I think I'm more of a it looks half full, It's just a perspective thing. Amazing.
You set me up for that.
Amazing. Thank you, Kate. It's the little things in life, kids.
Anyway, moving on in the queue.
Move on, please.
We do have a barrel that says Big Thunder Mountain Railroad on it. Usually these barrels hide something that they don't want you to see in Disney. A lot of the barrels usually hide fire hydrants or some sort of mechanical equipment or like something that turns.
Could be like electrical boxes.
Electrical boxes, or like I'm thinking, maybe something that turns the water on or off. I don't know for sure if it's hiding anything, but that's my theory. Is like, why is this random barrel sitting there? It's probably hiding something.
right next to another batch of cactus is the sluice with all that running water. So it's totally plausible that
Give me the faucet to turn it
maybe
on.
Right.
Yeah, it's possible. I don't know for sure. So I'll do some digging and see if I can find, especially if it's moved, since earlier times. I don't know for sure. But it is there. And then, yes, that water sluice is a sluicing it's the water. It's really actually quite an interesting feature that it goes all the way over your heads while you're in the queue.
Yeah, I like that it goes above.
So then we go around the corner and we head towards this wagon that's sitting there. And this one says, Clarkdale Dry Goods Wagon, Feed and Grain Mining Supplies. It is missing its wheels, so it's not going anywhere anytime soon. It's up on wood blocks, which might be railroad ties. They seem to be the right shape for railroad ties. And inside
they definitely are railroad ties.
Yeah, and inside they also have railroad ties inside the wagon, as well as some bags and some barrels. And somebody's just given up. They're just stuck there for all time. Did you find anything about the word Clarkdale?
I looked and I couldn't find anything.
Neither could I. But I think I do have a picture of. Doesn't this look like he's sitting on this wagon and it has wheels? Look at this. There is Pat Burke, who did all the set design, but look, it's got wheels at the bottom. The wheels have now come off. Is this a different wagon?
The location is there. That's the exact location. And the driver's seat is there where he's at, because you can see where the foot post is. It's got to be the same one, because right behind him is the stamp mill, which is the next part of the attraction. This thing definitely has not moved. Sadly, no idea what happened to the wheels.
Wheels have come off the wagon.
There's also no
this
carbide
episode.
barrel.
Yeah, the barrel's gone. The wheels are gone. What happened to the wheels? Did they take the wheels off to put in a different attraction?
I don't know.
What happened to the wheels? This is what will keep me up tonight. So this is Pat Burke.
You need to get some rest, girl.
So let's talk about this stamp mill, because Lord, I went down a rabbit hole with this stamp mill.
Oh, did you?
I did.
Okay. I like it.
So I have stared at this in the queue every single time I walk by it. I was like, someday, I'm going to look up and see what Joshua Hendy Machine Works from San Francisco, California is all about. And today was that day.
Yeah.
So, I have a quote from Pat Burke, who we just saw sitting on the wagon. And he said, in 1979, I was standing in front of the Walt Disney World new Big Thunder load building that was in progress. We had just installed the old 2-stamp mill in front that I had located and had to partially rebuild after over 100 years of use and neglect. The wood flywheel and crank assembly that would trip the mill's hammers is lying on the ground. Oh, I have a picture for that. Hold on. So this is the construction of it here. You can actually see them putting it together. The wood flywheel and crank assembly that would trip the mill's hammers is lying on the ground. In the 1880s, you could hear bays of these stamp mills running from miles away. A vertical gas engine is standing just behind the mill to run it by a flat leather belt. Today, it would be over 130 years old. And he says, it's old, but it will hold, was a quote that he threw in there. So this is its construction in the queue. And you can see it kind of being put together right there.
That's a great picture.
Isn't that cool? That was my favorite thing. So but that's not all. But wait, there's more. So Joshua Hendy Iron Works was an American engineering company that existed from the 1850s to the late 1940s. It was known for several very, very important things in American history, including the regrading of Seattle. If anybody's ever been to Seattle and knows Seattle history, it needed to be regraded because it was a hot mess when they did all the logging. That's where the term Skid Row comes from, because they used to send the logs down the street and they would just slide down the mud in the hill. But Joshua Hendy Iron Works also did the gates and valves for the Hoover Dam and Grand Coulee dams. They made gold mining equipment, obviously, and then machinery for the Panama Canal. And they created ships in World War II. So they did a lot of very significant things throughout American history. It was founded in San Francisco in 1956 to supply equipment to the placer miners hoping to strike it rich in the California gold fields. Placer miners were miners that they mined all of the like sand and silt to try to find like the small pieces. The placer miners were the ones that were trying to get like not the dynamite blow up rocks. They were like the ones that would dig in the sand and try and find the traces of gold. By 1890, the Joshua Hendy Iron Works was a leader in the mining industry, supplying equipment to a whole bunch of mining companies, including ore carts, Kirk, ore crushers, stamp and ball mills. So they basically placed this in the queue as a tribute to the company's history with mining. This is like a very significant piece here. But wait, there's more. So at one point in this company's history, Andy Anderson, Carl Bacon, William Hardiman, and Ed Morgan, who founded Aero Development, all worked together at Joshua Hendy Iron Works in Sunnyvale.
And they're the ones who manufactured the roller coaster.
Mm-hmm. It all comes full circle.
That's a good story. Did you already make a TikTok for this and I missed it?
I haven't yet.
Okay. It's a good story, though.
It is. No, it's gonna be one for next week, probably. Yeah. But, yeah. So very important stamp mill. And it's really interesting to think of, like, in gold mining times, you would have heard these. Basically, stamp mills, all they did was they would not totally crush. They would stamp the ore to kind of break it into pieces so that it could be processed for the mine. So that was its job. So anyway, I'm sorry I didn't ask you if you had anything for the stamp mill. I was just so darn excited. Do you have anything else?
Okay, so I'm going to give a shout out to Lindsay B on saying that Clarksdale was a mining town and it was located near the Verde River in Arizona.
Wow, I can't believe I didn't find that.
But what's weird, though, is it was a copper mine, and it wasn't founded until 1912. So our time period is off.
Interesting.
Interesting. It was repainted, so, you know.
If somebody just added it, they're like, "What? Find me a Western town, and we'll put it on the side of this."
Clarksdale. Perfect.
Like, my grandma's from Clarksdale. Like, okay.
Oh, that's so sweet. Put her on there. One thing that's just a simple thing, but I feel like is a miss, is what does a stamp mill do? And you didn't talk about it grinding and, like, you know, because it normally, so it pounds versus grinds. You didn't say that.
I did.
Did you say that?
I did. I said
pull the cliff it.
I said it broke it apart so that they could process it.
Okay.
It doesn't grind it up.
But you didn't say pounded. I wanted the word pounded.
Catch it, Kirk.
Catch it, pound it, catch it.
Oh my goodness. Behind the wagon too, I just want to point out that you know, Kirk, that bucket is up in the air behind the look.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there's a winch with the bucket. It's like lifting it up. If you look up above, you can see this has to be like some sort of pulley system for going down into the mine, like a mine shaft.
Winches and pulleys and levers and cables and there maybe shaftsmen worked there.
Shaftsmen.
Oh, you'll have to wait until next week because we're not going to make it to shaftsmen. Just wait till I teach you all about mining occupations. I've got it on lock and key.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So there is this building, which is interesting. It's kind of like the winch house that is in the Disneyland version, but it's more in the queue than it is in the actual attraction.
Because we have that one tower on the second lift hill, which does have like winch pulley stuffs, but it's not as tall.
It's not a winch tower. It's just kind of like, yeah, it's not obvious that maybe they figured out that effect like didn't actually work that well in Disneyland. Like nobody really got that part of the story, so they just tossed it. They're just like,
I think they just liked the tower and going through that little shed, because if you notice on the side, there's all this like tooling equipment, and there's also an engine right before that too.
Are you talking about this one?
No.
Which engine are you talking about?
We could talk. No. I'm talking about the one that's on the lift hill. But we could talk about that engine.
Oh, that's right. Talk about that engine? Yeah, let's talk about this engine. I don't have much to say about it. Do you? Did you?
Oh, I do.
Oh, good.
Here, keep that picture up. Welcome to the Bulldog engines.
Welcome to this happy place.
So these were made by the Fairbanks Company. And so they were used for a lot of things, and most often they were used for pumping. So this was actually the Fairbanks Bulldog Type B 4-horsepower engine number B24228, if you want to be specific.
I think we shall be specific.
Yeah,
we do here.
So, but it according to people who know a lot more about engines, all asked, hey, these things have been around since the 1800s. What are they used for? And most often it's attached to something with water, which it could be. This is just a guess. It could be something with that winch tower to maybe either whether like something got hot or the sluice, any of this stuff. I'm not sure.
Interesting.
The buckets.
Or it could just be a misplaced engine because of all the. Although this one kind of looks like it's on a platform.
It landed like way too.
It looks like it's on a platform.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's on its side. It would have to be like on its side to be like, hey, I don't belong here. Right?
Yep. That's usually how my engines talk.
They say, hey, I don't belong here. Hey, get me out of here.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bulldog. Let me move you.
So I don't think I have much else outside before we go into the building. I think that's that.
That's what I have, because the next thing would be our signage about no fighting.
Right. So I think that's where we pause for now before we head into the building. And then next week we'll probably do one side of the building, and the next week after that we'll do the other side of the building, because that's
it's their fault. They had to refurb it in 2012 and make it extra fancy fun with all this like cool little stuff. So yeah, we'll probably break it up and do inside the building until we cross over into where like the air ventilation section is. Probably have to pause there.
Yeah.
And then do that section all the way until the station load platform. And then we'll actually get on the ride. Isn't this fun?
It's so great.
Isn't this fun? We just hang out in a queue all day. It feels like you're actually at this point, we've been in the queue for already an hour and a half. So it's just take it as a July day. But
see, now when you're actually standing in the queue and it's hot and you're tired, you'll have something to like talk about with the people around you. Did you know this is an ore cart?
Excuse me, those prickly pears, their petals can be used in nopales tacos.
What?
Clarksdale was a copper mine in Arizona.
What?
A stamp mill will not grind, it'll pound.
Joshua Hendy Machine Works also made the Panama Canal.
They also built ships for World War II.
What's wrong with this person?
And they regraded Seattle. Isn't that great?
I'm pretty sure this Bulldog engine was used to power the sluice or the winch tower.
But you know what? Those are our people. That's our people, because we stood in that queue and had a ball looking for all the things.
Yes.
And we're pointing out things excitedly.
If you need a margarita, you can just pull some from that agave plant.
I don't think that's how that works. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this episode of Distory. Even though we didn't get very far in the queue, I feel like we really dug down deep and found a whole bunch of mining information to look at while we're standing in the queue of Big Thunder. And also, of course, all the construction and backstory of what it is we're looking at. So next week, we will head to more of the queue, just one half of the queue, because there's so much information and secrets and hidden references that we want to make sure that we hit them all for you guys. So, Kirk, did you have a favorite moment from this episode or something you'd like to share as we wrap up?
Stamp mills pound. They don't grind.
It's your takeaway for this episode. Nothing else. And Kirk loves ore carts.
If you're on Jeopardy and stamp mill comes up, what is they pound?
All right. on that note, I think we're going to wrap up this bar of the queue, but we will see you next time for Distory as we head into more of the queue for Big Thunder Mountain in Walt Disney World. Until next time, have a great week.
We need more ore cards.
Indeed. Have a great week, everybody.
See you guys.